Today we're tackling a quiet problem inside of PE-backed companies. The people who manage the capital and the people who manage innovation are operating from different playbooks. One prioritizes control, discipline, and predictable returns, while the other prioritizes innovation, investing, speed, experimentation, mission-driven work. That misalignment will kill value creation long before anyone even notices. In this episode, we're breaking down why this occurs and how to stop it, and instead turn the friction into accelerated returns. I'm joined by my fellow growth thinker and senior consultant, Bert Carter from Growthink Advisory. Bert, welcome to the show.
Tim, thanks for having me.
You know, there's a lot of conflict that occurs when a PE firm acquires another company and they start doing the integration, and then before you know it, we start seeing this conflict. And it's not only at the point of acquisition, it could be a few years down the road. But some of these problems may not have been identified. So what would you say are some of these core tensions?
Well, I think one of the things we see a lot is that there's this distinction between the generations, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, most PE managers are later in their career, right? They're probably a boomer or something in that field. And most of the companies that they're investing in are millennials, right? Somewhere between late 20s and mid 40s, right? They've got, I know obviously a lot of them are investing in really, really young people, but as a kind of tradition when you're going there and you're wanting to scale. And the thing I think that happens is just the understanding. We've all heard people say this, right? Like, man, when I was a kid, right, I rode my bike, uphill both ways to school, kind of thing.
Yeah.
The older people are saying that these kids don't know how to, put a hard day's work. But it's not that. It's not that they don't. It's that things have changed. And I think that's when I have conversations with PE managers. It's usually about getting them clear about what are the motivators of that entrepreneur that they invested in, going back and sitting in their shoes, thinking about what they want, what they're looking for, what's their experience been to date, and then going, how do I inspire that, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do I trigger that? Because really that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if they do it my way or their way. It matters that they do it in a way that's going to allow them to grow. So the first thing I think is distinguishing this generational gap, the different needs and wants between those two. That's the first thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because there's these bridges that if those bridges aren't built, then we can't cross those bridges.
Yeah.
And I think what we see a lot of times is the expectation is, why can't they just do it my way?
Yeah.
And their way is not bad. It's different. So you made a good point there about aligning the incentives. And there's a PE incentive, a very clear financial incentive. We could even call them financial buyers.
Yeah.
And then there's the founder incentive,
which
comes from a different place. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what those two incentives are.
Yeah, I mean, again, when we go back to the generations, go back to the millennials, what are they looking for? I mean, yes, they're looking for financial success. They're looking in that realm, but it's deeper. I believe that boomers and the generation before them, it was much simpler. It wasn't as complicated, and now it's more complicated. Maybe there's just been too many podcasts or whatever. But these founders, they want everything. They want to make money. They want balance. They want purpose. They want autonomy. They want all of these different things, and so it's different. Right. And I think for a PE manager, what I recommend is that interview that's not about what do I want from you, but what do you want from me? What are you looking for? How do you see your life unfolding inside of this partnership that we have around? We're going to grow your business. I've got a time frame, that's in line with my fund and such. You've got time frames that might or might be coinciding with that. Have the interview, and that's the first thing I recommend. Interview those founders about what their intention, their vision, their future looks like, just to hear it. You might not agree with all of it, and you wouldn't probably do it yourself that way. But if you know it, then you can use that information in your own, for your own interests.
Yeah, I think that's a value proposition for the private equity firms, because let's keep it real. It's very hard to find good businesses to buy. And if you've
Yeah.
identified one, chances are 50 other PE firms have already identified that
Right.
same one, and everyone's having this conversation with them. But I would imagine most of those conversations are coming from a financial standpoint,
Yeah.
how our capital can help your business grow, and it kind of stops
Yeah.
there. I think what you're getting at is this deeper identity, goals, vision, like what do you really want? And if they just kind of take a pause and get out of the financial mindset just for a moment and get into this, like, what does it all mean,
Yeah,
this
it doesn't
bigger
mean that
picture.
financials doesn't matter, because of course it
Of
does
course, of
matter.
course.
That's the whole point. But sometimes taking a step back, taking a step to the left, and then coming in from a different angle, you can find a different motivator that's going to, they're going to see how what they want aligns with what you want, and you guys can kind of talk,
Yeah.
kind of coherently about that.
Yeah. I spent a few years in doing baby boomer market research because I had some clients in the senior housing space. So for a period of time, I did more research than anyone could shake a stick at for the boomers and multiple generations.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we saw, and I'd love to kind of get your just reaction to some of these, are the boomer was the child of the silent generation, and the silent generation came through the Great Depression. So the boomer, they were actually known as the first teenager. So they were the first person that actually had a lot of freedom
Right.
because, the prosperity post World War II kind of spurred this on, and they basically became corporate America. They went through the hippie era and became yuppies and the whole bit. However, because they grew up during the Depression and their parents fell in hard times, not the boomer came through the Depression, their parents came through the Depression.
Hmm.
They know what hard times look like, and they're a bit risk averse,
Hmm.
and they were also the first generation that was mass advertised to. So
Hmm.
they're a
Hmm.
little like skeptical.
Right.
To reach a boomer, they're also the most educated demographic. So
Mm.
they like to read, they like to self-educate, they like to learn and understand, they like a slower pace. Like face-to-face interaction is a big thing in the boomer demographic.
Yeah.
The generation beneath them, the Gen X, they were largely left to their own devices. Myself, like my parents were at work, we were the
Hmm.
latchkey generation. We're very self-reliant.
Yeah.
Just get out of my way, let me do it. Don't micromanage me. I'll figure it out. We're the
Hmm.
figure it out generation. The millennials underneath them are very purpose driven. Like I want to make sure where I'm working, it means something. Lifestyle is big. You see this whole remote work environment, autonomy.
Hmm.
It has to like I like fun. I want technology. And then you get to the
Yeah.
Gen Z, and the Gen Z's like speed, 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 speed. I'm sure your kid and my kids, you see them
Yeah.
with a cell phone, it's just like whoa. They expect and demand speed. So when you put it all together, and you look at these larger legacy businesses, I call them legacy businesses. It's not always that PE are buying, but you have multiple generations inside of one business. Succession planning, I know you do a lot of succession planning, leadership development. Like you see all this friction points, and it kind of goes back to our theme here, which is like what conflicts are emerging from these friction points and from these bridges that may or may not be built,
Right.
and how do PE view that, and what are they doing about it? What can they do about these friction points within the generations?
Well, again, I think it goes back to you have to understand the other person first, right? Understand the generation, appreciate the differences. The reason why, as a PE manager, you invested in this company is because you saw something great. You saw something great in the founder, but how they're going to do it is probably different than how you would do it. And you need to appreciate that there's more than one way to do something. It's not all like just the decision making is much faster. It's much more intuitive. It's much more, I guess, fluid. You can't necessarily justify it in the same way you might have justified it through data. Does that
Right.
mean it's wrong if you can't justify it, right? I mean, most great things have happened without justification, right? Someone decided something should happen that way and they pushed forward. So I think understanding who you have that you're working with, how they make decisions, what's their process, is it assessing data, is it talking to the people around them, is it thinking about, is it feeling about, is it whatever, going on some peyote retreat, who knows what they're doing, right? To
Ayahuasca.
make their decision, know what it is, and you're less likely to have kind of, to have that conflict, right? My experience is most boomers, it wasn't moving as fast, right? They were taught to climb the ladder, to look at the data, to be reasonable, to be logical.
Yeah, pay your
So
dues was a big one with the boomers as well.
what's that?
Pay your dues was a
Pay
big
your
one.
dues, all of this,
Mhm.
right? So this is the decision is all about logic, 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 logic. And like you said, the X's, believe it or not, I'm an X.
Mm-hmm. We're exes.
Um, we're Xing it together. We were the first generation. We were all working.
Yeah.
Us and our partner had to work, right? Everything was moving it grew too fast. We all had to work, and our kids ended up having less time with us. It was more like, hey, we're both home at 7. We're both, like it's
Right.
so their mentality was, I'm going to do it on my own, and that's what that independence you're talking about. Independence, I'm going to figure it out. I don't need you. This kind of reality that comes from there, which is great to a certain, but it's very different than I grew up, and I looked at my parents, and then how they're looking at us. And then everything changed, right? I mean, you have the '08 crash and COVID and all of these different things that blew up the corporate ladder. And anything that we thought we were mimicking, like our parents, back down to them, is it's ridiculous, right? In many
Yeah.
respects. They're like, what am I going to get paid for? How much time do I have to spend? They want to know it quickly. There is no ladder. There's value in, value out. So again, it goes back to what I was saying at the start, really knowing and understanding, not just assuming that this person who is this founder and what their motivation is, but what's their deeper motivation? Because there is a deeper motivation beyond just, I want to be wealthy, I want to be rich, I want to be
For sure.
successful. What else is it? You can use that in your conversations, and you can use it as a way to minimize or eliminate conflict, because you could say things that they might think he doesn't know. He doesn't understand me, and that's where the conflict's going to go. Where if you mention something that they've mentioned to you about what they want in life, what's important to them, what they would do. Okay, I don't know. If this worked out as you wanted, what would you do? What would you do with your life? Like, having that conversation builds relationship, and you're more likely to listen to someone who's asked you that question and had that conversation with you. So again, conflict, I think, comes from understanding where those potential disagreements are, understanding the person a little bit more, asking some of those questions, not just assuming they want what I want. They're going to see it the way I see it, and if they don't, they're stupid, and they're
Right.
what am I doing?
How do you deal with innovation when you know innovation needs to occur, and potentially a younger owner wants to move faster, wants to spend more
Yeah.
money, take bigger risks, make more investments, and the person who's controlling the bag maybe like, whoa, let's pump the brakes, or
Yeah.
we're not ready yet, right?
Yeah.
And then you have some conflict there where one owner, the operator most likely is like, let's move, let's move, let's move.
Yeah.
And the person who's got the writing the checks is like, and I'm just curious to how you deal with it when you see those
I
situations.
think it comes to expectation. So if I'm a boomer, if I'm a PE manager, I'm saying, listen, what do you want to do? What do you expect to get it? How are you going to measure it? How much of your time, how much of our money is it going to take? And agree upon really the time and money. Most importantly, because I don't want you distracted from our primary aim that we've agreed is
And that's
probably
fair.
where we're going to get the most traction. But I want to know how you're going to measure success. How long are you going to give it to measure that, and you're going to throw it out, or you're going to double down on it. So I just want to understand, and this is something that I would bring to you. As a millennial, you might not think that, like, I don't know, I'll know what I want. No, that's not enough.
Yeah.
How are we going to measure this innovation as being successful? And then if it is successful, what are we going to do next? Let's talk about it now. Let's talk about the success. How long are we going to give it? We're going to give it 3 weeks. We're going to give it 3 months. We're going to spend X amount of money and time. This is how we're going to measure it. If it achieves this, then we're going to likely want to do X. We're not going to obviously nail that down. There's a lot more learnings, but you're now asking them questions that has them more. You're going to be more comfortable, as a P manager, working with someone like that to go ahead, go make that happen.
Yeah.
I know you need to do that, and the reality is, a number of those are going to be likely cornerstones of our success. We just don't know which ones.
Yeah. You know, one of the old playbooks was throwing bodies at problems. And if we want to grow, we need more offices, we need more humans, more bodies, more
Yeah,
a bigger footprint, right? More
yeah,
traditional, more.
yeah.
And the trend now is, can we make our existing employees, can we increase their capacity with technology? And then can we literally automate everything that can be automated, which means that can we grow without more bodies? Can we get bigger without that footprint? And I feel
Yep.
like there's still, even today, even though there's a lot of information, it's something that I hear on almost on a daily basis is friction coming from that conversation where people aren't fully sold that it'll work that way, but they know the old ways always work, or they
Hmm.
feel the old ways always work. And you're seeing in the news all these mass layoffs, and you're like, well, that's an indicator, but still, it causes friction. So, what do your conversations look like and sound like in that regard?
I mean, obviously, a lot of fear could occur around this conversation, of AI, automation, and redundancy, and letting go of most of your staff, et cetera. What I like to do typically, and I'm in conversation with a large manufacturing company, and we're talking about growing their business, and it's about how do we add tools and automation that amplify your current people's success and output. How do we double your sales with the same people, which in
Mhm.
essence is using half the people, right?
Right.
So,
Hmm.
in having that conversation with the staff about, listen, making you a more effective, more intelligent, more successful with the same amount of time, or making you 3 times, 5 times more successful. It's not about eliminating you. That doesn't mean some people that are not going to make the bridge and they're not going to use the automation or the tools, and they will need to be replaced. But as a general conversation, it's let's amplify versus replace. Let's amplify your people's success. Let's amplify their skills. Let's let them, like for instance, they're wanting to uh, um, quantify, is this an opportunity? How could they quantify faster? Is this the right opportunity? Well,
Hmm.
there could be some information that would give them intelligence right away. They could ask a few questions that would allow them to understand this is an opportunity we should explore from a sales opportunity. Faster than having a 30-minute conversation, they could have a 10-minute conversation and have the same results, or maybe even a 5-minute search or information. So that's the conversation that I'm wanting to have right now with companies that are in this transformation, have staff, and are looking at how do I add automation, amplify, improve their results, and not scare the bejesus out of everyone.
Hmm.
That we're going to try to lay you off. Obviously, there's a lot in the news right now about large companies that are laying people off. But the reality is they were probably overstaffed, and now
Hmm.
they're just kind
Right
of right
sizing. Yeah.
staffing to automation. It's not, obviously it's not a good look for employees. They're going to
Yeah.
be afraid.
Yeah. So it feels like there's an element of EQ that really needs to be there to get through the conflict.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, and even I mean even the emotional components, right?
Mhm.
I mean this generation is a lot is highly emotional and expressive versus kind of previous generations, and sometimes it feels like, man, knock it off, right? This isn't appropriate. This is a work
Yeah.
environment, like all of this kind of stuff. You see
Yeah.
this, you hear this
I
coming
see
up,
it. I
right?
see it.
It's
Yeah.
not appropriate, but it's a new kind of appropriate. The ability to be emotional and have emotional, because what that is also passion and commitment and other things.
Yeah.
If it's harnessed
Hmm.
differently, even though it's coming out kind of in this way.
Right. Well, it's funny. You mentioned it at the top of the call, which was, I mean, the goal is always the same. It's like we're trying to build these profitable organizations and
Yes,
we want to have financial wins,
yes,
right? No, we're not in business to not have these wins. It's just how we get there and how we want to get there
yeah,
looks different for different generations because of how they grew up and the circumstances by which how they grew up. But the
yeah,
goal is always the same. So if a millennial or a future Gen Zer wants financial freedom, they're probably just going to do it with the smallest most autonomous businesses built possible with all the robots and everything's just working in sync, and that's going to help them get to their goals. It's like Jay Turo, the CEO of Growthink, he goes to an office every day, not because he has to, he just likes going to an office and seeing faces and getting a cup of coffee and that kind of stuff. It's all trying to get to the same goal, just trying to find our own unique paths there. So, with all that being said, in closing, as we bring this conversation to a bit of a close, to the PE manager, we'll start with them. What would be your big three pieces of advice when it comes to this generational gap, managing these conflicts as they get into this new year, as we're kind of rounding out this year?
I think it's know your founders. Kind of like we were talking about before the podcast here. It's having them reflect. Is having them reflect to you how they feel they did is getting to know them. It's also having them get to know themselves, and it's also helping you understand what do I need to do different into the next year. So I think definitely having some time. December is a great time to do that. It's all of your key managers, key investments, founders. There should be a reflection meeting, conversation. Have them reflect on what they feel like worked. I usually do, what are three things you think worked really well? What's one thing you would improve upon? I always do the 3 in 1.
Okay.
Because you're also training people to look at the positives as well, not just at the negatives. 3 things you liked, one thing you would improve upon. What kind of education do you need to be better next year at what you're doing? What do you need to do more of with your time? What do you need to do less of with your time? And these are great parts of kind of that reflection. And I think a PE manager asking a founder, because no one's asking that founder these questions. They're going, just let me know if you have any questions. Most of the PE guys I know, they're just like, listen, I'm kind of hands off. Mostly, if they need my help, they'll ask me. But the reality is everyone needs someone asking them these kind of critical questions, having them reflect on what they're doing and how they're doing it. So I would say, number one, it's basically reflect with your founders, what they did right, what they want to change or improve, what they need from knowledge and kind of education, these kinds of things. I would ask them, what do you need from me? If you're trying to build a better relationship, and have them answer it. Like, listen, what's one thing you want from me? You want more of my time? You want more connections? You want more? What do you want from me? Because you're now getting their vision of how your relationship could be better without asking them, because they could be like, hey, how can our relationship be better? Oh, it's perfect. Okay, well, what do you need from me? Well, I could use more of this and more of that. Oh, okay. So that's a way that I could actually be more valuable to you in your process, So
That's good.
those are 2 things, and then I would ask them about their team, because again, the company's going to be successful if not just the founder is successful, but the founder as a team that they know and they understand and that are passionate about this as well. We know that PEs invest in teams, not just founders, but a lot of times all of their conversations are just with the founder. So asking that founder, tell me about your team. Tell me about what your plans are for the team, who did what you expected them to do, who didn't. Again, you're asking them questions, but you're asking them questions from above, like a mentorship, to have them reflect on their team. Plus, you're getting to know information about their team that's not necessarily what did they do wrong or what didn't they do, but what did they do right?
Yeah.
So you're understanding, and you could maybe go around in 3 months and go, hey, you said this person was really great at this, or they did this well. Did they? And that becomes now part of your kind of conversation with the founder. So this is what I recommend.
I love it. Okay, so sticking to, let me just do a brief recap, which is
Sure.
knowing your founder, really kind of getting introspective with them, doing that 3 in 1. So the 3 things of what worked really well, or what did you like that occurred this year, the one thing to improve upon. What do you need from me is a great question.
Yep.
And then let's talk about your team and really get into how they're performing, what their goals are. How well do you know them? If I'm trying to get to know you, are you getting to know your team, and what are we building here? So I'm going to flip the 3 in 1 on you, and I'm just going to put the 1 back. So we did the 3 things for the PE manager. Let's do the 1 thing for the founder. So if there's one thing that a founder can do in the new year, if they accomplish just one thing that you think would make the greatest impact for them, let's put it in the, so we'll put this in the frame of their relationship with their PE.
Yes. I think being humble enough to actually ask, what do you feel we did well? Where do you feel we should be doing things different? Right? You're actually asking. You're being humble. You're being a student in this moment. You're cementing the relationship, and you're building a relationship that you are coachable. You're trainable, right? You're wanting to learn. You're not there. You might be completely confident and excited and successful as a founder, but you're not done. You're not cooked until they stick you in the hole, right? So you're asking them for their input. This is a strategic relationship. They've been watching you. They're vested in your success. Give me some feedback, some honest feedback on what you think I'm doing. What am I not doing? What would you be doing if you were me sitting in this role? I think it's that. It's asking for that feedback.
It's fantastic. Being humble. I love it. What is the number one reason someone should contact Bert Carter before the year is up?
Hey, if you're looking at 2026 and you're asking yourself, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And you need another person that can answer those questions or help you get the answers to those questions. That's what we do at Growthink. That's what I do. I've started 6 companies. I now help other founders and PE companies with their portfolio companies to just think and be better.
Awesome. Put your contact information in the show notes. If you're new here, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks
Bert.